시간이지.
시간 없다. 들어와. 아무도 가.
아빠 미안해.
있었어.
Agent Kim has finally discovered that his missing daughter, Minji, is still alive. From that exact moment, his only objective was to find her as quickly as possible. The terrifying pool of blood he saw earlier, which he desperately hoped wasn't hers, did indeed belong to Minji. Because of Joo Ri's betrayal, Minji had been handed over to the Gold Teeth Gang. The sheer agony Agent Kim felt while searching for his daughter is beyond words. To make matters worse, a phone call from his missing daughter turned out to be a cruel trap set by a gang of young thugs. In the midst of this, Park KangJan, a deadly villain who detected Agent Kim's past North Korean covert ties during the search, has emerged as the most dangerous threat to his life. Here is my review of Episode 5 of Agent Kim, arguably the biggest hit series of 2026. As expected, Minji proved herself to be the true daughter of the legendary Agent Kim. Instead of screaming or banging on the door for help, she instinctively assessed her surroundings. Her survival intellect is truly admirable. When Gold Teeth entered the freezer to check on her, Minji recognized him instantly. Even though she had never seen his face before, her intuition told her that this was the very man who had treated her like a corpse. Right then, Joo KangJan called Gold Teeth. Gold Teeth answered with arrogant, provocative talk, deliberately testing Joo KangJan's patience. Honestly, it's hard to understand why Gold Teeth is testing Joo KangJan. Especially after previously suffering the humiliation of having his own teeth pulled out by him. If you call this reckless bravado, Gold Teeth's future looks incredibly dark. Minji, who overheard this phone conversation by chance, kept her eyes glued to the slightly open freezer door. She was already drawing an escape route in her mind, waiting for the perfect moment. Meanwhile, Agent Kim stormed into the shipping container where Gold Teeth's henchmen were gathering, crushing them one by one. He easily took down Park KangJan, the thug who had just been beaten with a hammer by Gold Teeth for ruining his dinner. Then, Agent Kim spotted Kim Sang-man, the ponytail thug mentioned by a homeless witness. Agent Kim mercilessly broke him down until he finally confessed Minji's location. Just like the previous villains who suffered heavy consequences for their foolish stubbornness against Agent Kim, Kim Sang-man and Park KangJan were beaten to a pulp. After forcing the location of the cold storage out of them, Agent Kim rushed outside, only to find himself surrounded by Gold Teeth's reinforcements. In the Episode 5 preview, two different groups dressed in black appear. Based on the context, one group is Gold Teeth's gang, and the other consists of elite mercenaries from Joo Construction. When Agent Kim arrived at Mopo port, it was night, but it wasn't raining yet. The thugs surrounding him had messy hair and lacked any proper stance or discipline. In contrast, when the well-groomed Joo Construction mercenaries arrived at Mopo port, it began to rain. They stood in an organized formation holding umbrellas around a central figure, who appears to be Director Nam, Joo KangJan's right-hand man. He seems to be carefully inspecting the aftermath of Agent Kim's path of destruction. No matter how much Gold Teeth is outclassed by Joo KangJan, he is still a gang leader. He wouldn't provoke Joo KangJan without a backup plan. He likely anticipated that Joo KangJan wouldn't come alone to save his daughter, but would bring a highly trained elite force of mercenaries. Because of this, Gold Teeth's thugs mistook Agent Kim for Joo KangJan and attacked first. They had no idea this man was actually Minji's father, because Gold Teeth was still unaware of Agent Kim's existence. The thugs simply assumed that any tall, middle-aged man at the port must be Joo KangJan. Agent Kim needed to finish off these loud, undisciplined local thugs quickly to get to Minji. He wiped them out with ease, but then he encountered Park KangJan, who had traced Minji's location using Kang Hae-ryung's phone. Park KangJan is a top-tier agent, one of the few absolute powerhouses in this universe capable of physically threatening Agent Kim's life. Knowing his daughter could be freezing to death inside the warehouse, Agent Kim's heart was racing to save her. However, moving forward with a monster like Park KangJan at his back guaranteed a fatal ambush from behind. Ultimately, Agent Kim was pinned down right in front of his destination. Confronting Park KangJan, Agent Kim remembered his past, the days when he believed working for a dictatorship was his only way to survive. He recalled his youth, when he caught the eye of Ryong and was sent to a harsh training camp alongside Park Young-gwang after a brutal struggle. The image of the young, weeping brother begging Park Young-gwang not to leave from the back of a departing military truck. overlapped perfectly with the Park Kang-sung standing before him now. Because of this emotional trauma, Agent Kim could not bring himself to attack Park Kang-sung with his full, lethal strength. Although the full backstory hasn't been completely revealed in the show yet, based on the original webtoon and fan theories, Agent Kim and Park Young-gwang shared a deep bond of brotherhood that transcended mere rivalry. In the horrific training camp designed to erase their humanity and turn them into loyal dogs of the regime, they held onto their sanity through each other, even while being forced to point blades at one another. During the brutal torture and brainwashing, Park Young-gwang was the painful anchor who reminded Agent Kim of his real name and his reason to live. This is exactly why Agent Kim cannot launch a lethal attack against Park Kang-sung, the younger brother whom Park Young-gwang cherished above all else. Furthermore, even though Park Kang-sung is praised as a highly skilled Tier 1 agent, he is still not quite a match for a fully unleashed Agent Kim. Yet, believing that Agent Kim betrayed his brother and caused his death, Park Kang-sung is driven by a singular mission to eliminate him. Agent Kim practically begged his opponent, asking Park Kang-sung to let him go just this once, promising to give up his own life later. But Park Kang-sung was completely deaf to his desperate pleas. To him, the man who betrayed his beloved brother stood right before his eyes. Following Ryong's orders, Park Kang-sung launched a deadly thrust at his target. However, his blade missed Agent Kim and struck the car next to him instead. This heavy moment suggests their relationship is built on something far deeper than simple betrayal and revenge. While making Agent Kim lose his most precious daughter just as Park Kang-sung lost his brother might seem like the ultimate punishment, Park Kang-sung's choice seems different. Alternatively, Agent Kim might have revealed the hidden truth that day, that it was actually Ryong who caused Park Young-gwang's death. Agent Kim likely explained that because he knows this truth, Ryong is desperately trying to eliminate him to keep the secret buried. Meanwhile, Seong-han-soo perfectly distract dangerous covert operative Kong Guk-chul, allowing Agent Kim to safely slip away toward Mopo port. Seong-han-soo dragged Kong Guk-chul into the water, disrupting the entire scene. Afterward, he took Park Jin-chul, a former marine powerhouse, to his highly classified, private safe house that had never been revealed to anyone before. The safe house was packed with heavy weaponry Seong-han-soo had used during his active duty days. Loading the vehicle with everything from assault rifles to Park Jin-chul's absolute favorite weapon, the bazooka, the duo headed straight for Mopo port. I predict that Seong-han-soo and Park Jin-chul were the ones who rammed their vehicle directly into the white car used by Gold Teeth's gang. The homeless witness had specified that exact vehicle, and since it belonged to the criminals who kidnapped Minji, our duo had absolutely no reason to hold back. Gold Teeth was likely inside that car. He had been outside talking to Joo KangJan when a strange commotion drew his attention toward the shipping containers, causing him to leave the freezer door unlocked. Upon entering, he found his hidden henchman beaten to a pulp. At that moment, Gold Teeth furiously assumed Joo KangJan had already arrived and committed the act. Hearing the sounds of battle from the thugs he had stationed outside, he walked toward the noise with confidence. However, because Agent Kim was already locked in combat with Park Kang-sung, what Gold Teeth actually witnessed was another brutal scene of total defeat. Eventually, Gold Teeth came face to face with Agent Kim, who was walking out of the confrontation covered in blood. In that moment, Gold Teeth felt an overwhelming aura of terror, something he had never felt from Joo KangJan. No matter how much wealth Joo KangJan flaunted, he always retained the cheap aura of a low-life gangster. But Agent Kim was entirely different. The eyes of a man trying to protect something are fundamentally different from the eyes of a man who has lost everything. Agent Kim possessed the terrifying gaze of the latter. Gold Teeth instantly realized that if he didn't run away immediately, there would be no tomorrow for him. Joo KangJan could be manipulated by using his daughter as leverage, but that tactic would never work on Agent Kim. Gold Teeth still vividly remembered the foul stench of blood from when Minji was trapped in his car trunk for a day and a half, believing she was already dead. This meant Gold Teeth had zero leverage for negotiation or compromise. Furthermore, seeing that Agent Kim had wiped out an entire gang single-handedly, including the massive Kim Sang-man, proved that Agent Kim could not be defeated by strength, skill, or strategy. Faced with this monster, Agent Kim offered Gold Teeth one single condition for survival: lead him straight to the freezer where Minji was kept. Even during that brief walk, Gold Teeth was desperately plotting a deceptive trick to escape alive. When they entered the freezer, Gold Teeth confidently told him to look for her body. However, the burlap sack that was supposed to cover Minji was completely empty. This was a variable even Gold Teeth had not anticipated. Trying to regain control, Gold Teeth threatened Agent Kim, but Agent Kim completely ignored him. His entire focus was locked onto a hidden message Minji had left behind. At that very moment, Minji had miraculously managed to break through the loose lock of the freezer door. She was running blindly toward the outer highway of Mopo port under a torrential downpour. Her entire body was freezing cold, and blood from the wound inflicted by Joo Ri was streaming down her face, blurring her vision. It was a worst-case scenario. Driven by a desperate will to live, Minji saw the headlights of an approaching vehicle and frantically waved her hands for help. When the car stopped and the door opened, she must have felt an immense wave of relief. Unfortunately, that vehicle was none other than the luxury sedan of Joo KangJan, who had personally driven down to Mopo port to clean up the entire situation. Knowing that Joo Ri, the girl who struck her head with a brick, was the mastermind behind this nightmare, Minji was naturally wary of Joo KangJan. However, Minji is still only a 17-year-old girl. Overwhelmed, she begged him to contact her father, Agent Kim. Joo KangJan manipulated her with a gentle tone, telling her not to worry, to take a breath, and promising that her father would meet her at the hospital after she received treatment. In reality, Joo KangJan was already planning her murder. While he maintained a sophisticated image and gained people's favor with expensive suits and polite manners, his true identity was a ruthless contractor boss. He is a dangerous sociopath who completely erases lives to get what he wants. His daughter, Joo Ri, inherited this exact trait. After striking Minji with a brick and believing she had killed her, Ri stayed locked in her room trembling for days. However, her fear didn't stem from taking a life, it came from the anxiety of whether the crime had been perfectly covered up. This twisted fatherly love ultimately turned Ri into a monster. When Joo KangJan comforted his daughter, telling her she should have confessed everything to him sooner, he was actually highly satisfied with her ruthless methods. The mere fact that his daughter had been struck by an unknown girl had deeply wounded his pride. In his eyes, by pushing Minji to the brink of death, Ri had successfully proven her strength and ruthlessness to her father. Joo KangJan's tears were not out of pity for his daughter, but out of dark joy. Therefore, when the supposedly dead Kim Minji literally rolled right into his hands, Joo KangJan viewed it as a divine opportunity. While Gold Teeth would take the fall for all the crimes, Kim Minji, the sole vulnerability to his daughter Joo Ri, had to be permanently eliminated from the world. Joo KangJan recalled passing by Agent Kim earlier. Although that middle-aged man's profile felt strangely familiar and bothersome, Joo KangJan dismissed it, believing a common citizen wasn't worth his attention. In fact, Joo KangJan's background profile originally mentioned him being a former Black Ops agent before that detail was redacted. One of Agent Kim's past high-profile missions involved the assassination of Kim Jung-seon, a target who had been actively executing Black Ops agents working for inter-Korean peace. If Joo KangJan truly was a former Black Ops agent, given his corrupt nature, he wouldn't have stopped at simple black operations. He likely committed countless atrocities to amass his current wealth and power. It is highly possible that Agent Kim, who was active during that exact era, knows Joo KangJan's darkest secrets. The reason they didn't recognize each other during their initial confrontation over the school violence incident was likely due to masks or tactical gear worn in the past. Their inevitable face-to-face confrontation will surely unveil their dark, shared history. Joo KangJan ordered Director Nam to secretly relocate Minji. Recognizing the mortal danger, Minji is once again fighting tooth and nail to escape. Thanks to her sharp intellect and quick actions, she will likely manage to send a distress signal to her father. This will inevitably lead Agent Kim straight to Joo KangJan's mansion, pushing the conflict to its absolute boiling point. Seong Han-soo and Park Jin-chul will serve as incredible allies, arriving in style by completely crushing Gold Teeth's vehicle. After handing the remaining thugs over to state authorities, they will head directly to Joo KangJan's location. Given his private army of contract thugs, Joo KangJan's personal combat strength is expected to be formidable. Upon learning through Minji's call that she is trapped in Joo KangJan's estate, Agent Kim, backed by Seong Han-soo and Park Jin-chul, will tear the mansion apart and capture Joo Hae-ri. True to their code of not executing civilians, our protagonists will systematically dismantle the entire estate with cold precision. Cornered before them, Joo Hae-ri will be brought to her knees. Yet, blindly trusting her powerful father, she will stubbornly deny any knowledge of Minji's kidnapping. Knowing exactly how ruthlessly Agent Kim handled Shin Seong-ho's gang in the past, Seong Han-soo will attempt to persuade Joo Hae-ri to confess. However, this malicious, spoiled perpetrator will still fail to grasp the gravity of her situation. With an arrogant glare, her eyes will say, "My father is the billionaire chairman of Joo Construction who controls armies of thugs. What could a low-class old man like you possibly do to me?" She will continue to play innocent. With Joo Hae-ri captured by Agent Kim, and Kim Minji held hostage by Joo KangJan, the stakes are higher than ever. It will be thrilling to see how this explosive showdown, now intertwined with deep military and inter-Korean conflicts, unfolds.
뒷꼬라지는 뭐 정상이냐?
기다릴게.
시간 없다. 내 딸이 살아있다고 믿으니까 살려뒀도 전부 죽어.